Welcome everybody, and thanks for dropping into my kitchen. Today's cooking class with Evey, we are going to be making agua fresca. So, agua fresca, what is it, right? It is actually a very, very popular drink that you, if you're traveling to Mexico or other Latin American countries, are likely to come across. It's very popular in being sold by street vendors or in taquerias. But basically, agua, the agua fresca is a drink that's made with fruits. It can be made with fruits, it can be made with grains, it can have seeds added to it, usually a little bit of sugar or sweetener added to it. Today, we are going to make 2 agua frescas using some seasonal fruits. One of which is watermelon, the other is lemon. So basically, the second one's kind of like a lemonade. But what we're going to do is we're going to add some chia seeds to it to make it a little bit fun. So here we have the 2 drinks. This is the first one. This is the watermelon. Look at that. That looks great, doesn't it? Tastes really good too. I'm just guessing. I haven't tried it, right? And this is your agua fresca. I call it a chia fresca. I'm going to give it a little stir so you can see a little bit better. I'm just going to leave them right there up front and center so we have them with us. So to start off, first of all, very easy to make, a very refreshing drink. It can be used as a mixer for a cocktail with vodka if you like to do that. But basically, it is a non-alcoholic drink that's great to serve as a mocktail. All right, instead of maybe a other type of cocktail that you might be having, like a margarita, say. What I like about these is because it's made with fruit, you don't necessarily have to add a lot of sugar. And for those of you who know me, I try to cook without added sugars and try to go more with what is found naturally in nature. And as we know, watermelons are naturally very sweet and hydrating because it has so much water in it. So just to give you an idea, what I did was I ordered a watermelon. These 2 pieces are actually a quarter of that watermelon. It was probably about a 12-pound watermelon. But what I did was cut it in half again, cut it in half again. And so I end up with these wedges. I thought it'd be a fun thing to do just to show you how I cube up the watermelon so that we can eventually put it into the blender. So what I did was I just sliced the quarter that I had down in wedges, like so. And I'm going to use both of these pieces. What we want to do is and then I'm going to do it like this. Here, you know, I'm going to move this across so you can see better. But what we want to do is we want to make the cubes small enough. We want about 3 to 4 cups. So what I'm going to do is I usually cut about 3 times in this direction. And then what I do is I take it and cut it 2 or 3 times in this direction. Maybe cut these little ends off. So that all that's left is the rind. And I'm going to do this with all of the watermelon that I have. Hey Jack, how are you? So good to see you. Hope everybody's been doing well. No COVID incidences. One of the ways to stay healthy is to eat healthy, right? Keep your immune system strong. So what I'm doing now is I'm just making these into cubes. Let me show you what I've got so far. And as I said, we'll probably have about 3 or 4 cups when we're done. When I get to the end piece, I just kind of cut in 3 directions. And we have our last piece. All right, let me just do this last piece of watermelon then. And we can get to the blending. What I like to do is I usually, when I get a watermelon, I like to cut up the whole watermelon like this right away and store it in the refrigerator. My favorite thing to do is when I do that, cut up a little bit of mint and put that in with the watermelon. Oh, it makes such a great, refreshing dessert, just like that. But what we're going to do today is we are going to add mint, and we're going to blend it up in the drink. All right, let me just discard these. All right, here we go. There's our watermelon. What I want to do now is I went and picked some mint from my garden this morning. I'm going to put in probably about 4 sprigs of mint. You don't need to put the mint in, it's optional. I actually really like it. To me, watermelon and mint is just such a fabulous combination. The watermelon is naturally sweet, so it freshens up that mint, that spearmint. And what I do is I strip the stem, pushing down the stem, and the leaves just naturally come off. So I'm not even going to bother to chop those up because they're going to go into the blender and get all chopped up. Now what we want to do is, let me get my blender. All right. I have a Vitamix, but any blender will work for this. It's not very tough to blend up watermelon, as you probably know. And I'm going to add that directly to, you know what, if I put it down here, it'll be a little bit easier, wouldn't it? All right. So I now have my watermelon and my mint in my container. And before I blend it up, what I want to do is I want to take the juice of 1 lime. All right, let's get that going. And what I'm doing here is I'm just rolling the lime. I do this with lemons as well to release the juices. It breaks up some of the cells in the fruit, and it makes it easier for the juice to be released, and you get more juice out that way. I'm going to take my handy dandy juicer here and add that. Before I add it into the juicer, what I would like to do, I also do this, is I take a fork and just break up those cells even more. And you can see, even as I'm doing this, there's juice that starts to come out right away. All right, so I'm going to put this in and juice it. I'm going to get, maybe about 2 tablespoons of juice from this. Maybe 3 if you're lucky, but usually around 2 tablespoons is about average. If you have a large lemon, you'll probably get about twice that much. You'll probably get about 4 tablespoons. All right, so I'm going to put this in. The lime adds this fabulous zing to this drink. All right, put my top back on. Now, in a typical Agua Fresca, you might add some sweetener to this. If you get it from a sweet vendor, chances are pretty good that they are adding more sweetness to it. I find I don't need it. I think it's also because it's not as diluted when I make it. But if you make it and you decide that you want it to be sweeter, then just add some sweetener. You could add honey, or you can add maple syrup to it. If you add sugar, it's usually better to add it as a syrup so that it dissolves better. But I'm actually on the low power here. Now I'm on a medium. And I'm just going to blend it up until that mint is very fine. All right. Very good. So now we have this wonderfully sweet juice. And what I'm going to do, now you can do 2 things at this point. The true Agua Fresca is filtered, so the fruit particles are filtered out of it, so it's a nice clear drink. When I made this one earlier, you can see it's opaque. I left the fruit bits in it. I like kind of the texture of it. I like that it has a little bit more fiber in it. Fiber is always good, especially when you have something with sugars, because it slows down the absorption of that sugar. So you don't get a sugar rush and then drop. But it's also very nice to, if you're serving it for guests, to have it as a nice clear liquid. And one way you can do that is, I'm going to grab a glass here and show you. Grab a strainer. You could also use a bag if you have a bag that has a loose weave to it, like this one. This is actually a produce storage bag that you could pour the liquid through. This is what they call a nut bag. If you're making almond milk, I use this all the time. It's very well used. It's almost falling apart at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour carefully, because I have such a small container, the juice through this sieve. Now, you may find that it's a little easier. I'm just going to leave this here a second. Oops. That's what I was afraid of. I kind of spilled it over the edges. All right, with that. You may find that you want to take something and push the fruit pulp to help accelerate that draining. And what you're going to get is a wonderful, let's wipe this down because I made a little bit of a spill there. It will settle even more, but it has lost some of that opacity that it had before. So that's one way to make it. You can leave the solids in. That's the way I like it. But when you're at this point, what you want to do then is you want to add some filtered water, because it is very sweet. So what I like to do is add maybe about another third to the drink. And we're going to add some ice cubes at this point to chill it. You could put it in the refrigerator so that it chills as well. We can do the same thing that I did with the other by putting a little bit of a garnish in. Maybe we add a little lime wedge. There you have it. Now, if I had filtered it all, I would fill this all up with the drink. But I think we'll move on to the next one. I'm just going to take a sip of this one. You know, I'm going to take a sip of the one we just made. See how it compares. Yum. Oh, that's good. I may have added a little bit too much water. If that happens, I can add a little bit more of the concentrate that I have in my blender right now. So that's one way to make a Agua Fresca. Another way to make an Agua Fresca, other than blending the fruit up, by the way, another great one to make with blending it up just like this is pineapple. If you use pineapple, I actually have a pineapple here. It wasn't quite ripe enough. I want it to be nice and really ripe, because the riper it is, of course, the sweeter it is. But you can use canned pineapple as well. Again, if you feel like it's not sweet enough, it's not strong enough, I got this in pineapple juice. You could add a little bit of that pineapple juice instead of adding a sweetener. So that's something to think about. And what's great with this is ginger. So pineapple and ginger is a great combination. gives it a sweet kind of little zing with that ginger in it. If you ever had crystallized ginger, you know how good that is, the sugar and the ginger together. Okay, so let me now grab, here we go. Let me just rinse out my container real quickly, and we'll move on to our lemonade. All right, and that's the beauty of these two, is quick cleanup. It doesn't have fats in it or any other things that might cling to the container. So we can go right on to the next one. And I just realized we don't need it because we're going to be making a lemonade. And this one is a great way to make lemonade. So basically, I showed you in the beginning, this is what our Agua Fresca, I like to call it a chia fresca because it has those chia seeds in it. And we will be adding a sweetener to this because, as we know, lemons are very tart. So we want to do that. So I find it's really easy to make this up in a mason jar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add filtered water. I've got about a cup and a half left here. I may decide to add a little bit more water later on, depending on how much juice I get out of my lemon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lemon squeezer, my juicer. I like to cut off the ends of the lemons because this shape makes it difficult for me to use this juicer. I'm going to cut it in half. So basically now, here is what I have. I have my jar. Let me just give you a little bit more of a view down there. How's that? I need assistance, don't I, to help me with those things. Oh, Jack, I see that you've tried it in Mexico. Wonderful. Hey, let me know what flavor did you get when you did that? Was it a lemonade? Was it there's mango? Mango is also great. Guava. All right. So, as I said, typically, I didn't use the fork on this, but typically you get about 3 to 4 tablespoons. This one's a medium. I'm gonna go in with my fork, although I think I got most of the juices out by now. Let's just go in again. Got a little bit more out. I love to get every little last bit in. All right, so I'm going to go with my other half now. All right, and squeeze that one out too. What's nice about this mason too is it's a wide mouth jar, so it gives me a little bit more space to use the juicer in. All right. So now I have this great lemon water, basically. We want to sweeten it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I am going to use a little bit of, earlier today when I made this one, I used honey. I'm going to use, instead of the honey this time, I'm going to use some local maple syrup. And I'm going to put in, this is going to make about 2 drinks, maybe 1.5 drinks. So I'm going to put in about 2 teaspoons of the maple syrup, and we'll see whether that is enough to sweeten it up. Typically, recipes will say use about a tablespoon. Like I said, I like to keep it on the tart side and try not to add a lot of sweetener to it. So we now have our basic ingredients. Um, what I would like to do, let's see. Let's see if we added. Now, I was going to say put ginger in it, but I think it would be too tart for ginger. So let us add our chia seeds. Let me go grab those. Now, chia seeds are great. They're nutritious. They have a lot of antioxidants in them. If you're familiar with antioxidants, they help us stay healthy. They help us help every cell function properly. They come from plants and only from plants. So good source of antioxidants, good source of micronutrients, a great source of fiber. Fiber is always good, as I mentioned. It helps regulate our blood sugar levels so that we don't get sugar crashes and we don't get insulin resistance. So we always want to be adding fiber into our diet. It's a great source of omega-3 fatty acids, essential to us because we can't make those ourselves, and it helps every cell function better in our body. So omega-3 fatty acids, fiber, protein. It actually is a source of protein for us. So I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of that as well. Now what you're going to find is when you put these in, they might sink to the bottom. Some float, some sink to the bottom, but that's okay. What we want to do is we want to give this time for the chia seeds to swell. The fiber in them actually expands and makes them almost gelatinous, which is kind of fun, almost like a tapioca with a hard center, if it were. But so what I like to do is I like to just leave this in the refrigerator, 20 minutes at least, but the longer you leave it in, the bigger those little pieces of chia get. And you're going to end up with a drink like this. I'm going to just taste it. I like using a straw because if the chia seeds are at the bottom, it helps mix them up and helps you get the chias rather than having to keep mixing the drink as you're drinking it. But I want to taste this one with the maple syrup in it. And let's see how we did. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pour some out. See how I shook it up first. So I got some of those chias. Now these chias are not going to be as gelatinous as the other. I'm going to put a couple of ice cubes in it. All right. And I'm going to borrow this straw from the other one. And I'm going to compare the flavors. So I put about a teaspoon of honey in this one. And I put about 2 teaspoons of maple syrup in this one. Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. Different flavor. It is different. I'm trying to think which one I like better. I might like the maple syrup. That was fun. I was afraid it might change the color, but it doesn't seem to. It's not enough to alter the color of it. So there you have it. We have the watermelon. We have the lemonade or the chia agua fresca. Chia fresca. Both delicious, both good on a hot day like we've been having. But what other combinations can you use? Remember I mentioned the mango. So that was a good one. What else is there? What about cucumber? Cucumber is a good one as well. So cucumber with, you could do cucumber mint. That's a good one as well. I mentioned the pineapple with ginger, also a good one. You can do a lime, rosemary, ginger combination. Sounds a little unusual, but it's actually very tasty. Something different, right? Oh, and then, you know what I didn't mention too is there's something called an horchata, which is also considered one of the agua frescas, and that's made with rice. You can make it if you do equal parts of water and rice. You let the rice soak, you blend it up, and then you can add cinnamon and vanilla to it, and drain it as we were talking using the same devices that I was talking about, and you have a great, satisfying, um, richer. A lot of times the horchatas have evaporated milk in it, but you can use water as well, as I mentioned. But yeah, so a lot of different options. I hope you try them and let me know. Let me know what you think. And I look forward to seeing you next week for our next show. Hope everything is going well. We'll see you soon.